Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to talk about a very interesting plant that's very close to my heart that Haley in my comments actually saw earlier when I was talking about it, and I'll get into the Russian varieties a little bit later. Thank you for your comment. It is a pomegranate. So this over here is my little pomegranate here. The genus and species for pomegranate is Punica granatum or granatum. Punica actually comes from ancient Roman, and it's actually their word for, I believe, Carthaginian apple. This is an incredibly ancient plant. It's been cultivated for many centuries. Carthage is in modern day Tunisia right now, actually, for reference. There's another representative species which is called Punica protopunica, which is native to the island of Socotra, which is kind of just off of the Gulf of Aden. It's in Yemen. Super cool biome there. This is native to Iran. It's native to kind of the cradle of civilization area. It's native to India as well. This has a lot of historical and cultural significance within Iran. I believe they actually have a day that they celebrate pomegranate. It's kind of like almost like their Thanksgiving. It's called Yalda, which is the eve of the pomegranate. So many different varieties of pomegranate. Haley in my comments was talking about colder, kind of more hardier Russian varieties. One variety that I really wanted to recommend, if I can remember it off the top of my head, I think it was Parfianga. That's a really good variety. It has a little bit more cold hardiness. It's a little bit more robust. It has bigger flowers. What should I say? So, this was in the Punicaceae family until recently it was reclassified in the Lythraceae family. Lythraceae being the crepe myrtle purple or loosestrife family, you know, those big bushes that you find in the state of Georgia that have those wonderful panicle purple flowers. That family, Lythraceae, because they've been found to be taxonomically similar. This is a slow growing plant, you guys. It likes a really sandy composition to its soil. It needs excellent drainage. This is on year 3. Don't expect to get any fruit set until later. I think year 5, year 6, even year 7. You know the expression, plant a pear for an heir because pear trees take so long? It's kind of the same scenario with pomegranates. Pomegranates have really quite variable cold hardiness. There's one variety called Wonderful that I think is a bit more cold hardy. This is a cross in between, I don't know the name of the other variety, but it's also Nana. If you see Punica granatum Nana, those are the dwarf varieties. Many times you can eat them with their sarcocarp, which is like the kind of white flesh, the bitter flesh inside the pomegranate. You can just eat them whole. Think of like how you would eat an entire kumquat, for example, as opposed to the bitter rind of an orange. So you can prune these as they mature a little bit. Remember, if you prune, you might be getting a limited fruit harvest the next year over, but it can greatly improve the shape of the plant. You'll get a lot of these lateral branches going on. A couple of ID features: they have a crinkling, undulating leaf, kind of almost like a bay leaf. It kind of has waves to it. They're all ovular lanceolate in shape. They're quite brittle. They produce a really nice trunk at a very young age. I'm really tempted to prune this one because it's kind of a little lopsided. However, I'm a little concerned just because they're so slow growing. If you grow these in northern climates like I have mine here, I recommend protecting them or bringing them inside in the winter. Although they are somewhat frost tolerant, it's not worth losing your plant because they take forever to grow. If you notice that yours is a little bit dull, it could be calcium deficiency. If you start noticing the veins a little bit more, I think it's starting here, you might have nitrogen deficiency. So a good fertilization when they start to leaf out a little bit more in their native range, February, in northern climates more like March and April, is a good idea. Propagates really well from cuttings. I recommend taking several nodes. Be generous with your cuttings. Give it a good start just because it takes so long for them to establish. Once established, they don't require a lot of water. Similar growth and maintenance to olives, actually. These have actually naturalized in the Iberian Peninsula, so you'll find them wild in Portugal and Spain as well. I grow mine in terracotta. just for the reason that A, I really love this pot, but B, it also dries out a lot quicker because this is not the kind of plant that likes sitting in water for too long. If you get a little bit of redness, that's just the natural pigments in there kind of circulating through in the younger tissues, totally normal. If you get a little bit of leaf curling, it could either be pest damage or it could be just that it's a little hot, kind of in the middle of the day. That's their water preservation technique. If you want to thin out the flowers a little bit when they start coming out, you will get bigger fruit, and typically the fruit will be a little bit sweeter. And the saprocarp, the white kind of stuff, the seed capsules will be a little thinner, so it'll be a little bit more manageable to eat. These guys typically set fruit earlier on in kind of early midsummer, and then it takes a really long time for it to mature. Make sure that it's red, it's almost like a bronze color on the outside before you pick, or else it'll be really, really bitter. Typically the fruit set's actually quite horrible the first year, and then it just gets better over time. They have this really nice opposite growth habit, the leaf arrangement, which is quite nice too. These make really great gifts too if you have patience and you have someone in your life you really love. Give them a pomegranate tree because it's really quite a good heirloom. You can grow these from seed. I recommend scraping off and scarifying manually the outer capsule of the seed. Takes a really long time to get fruit off of it, so it makes a good ornamental plant in the meantime. Another thing that I have to say is this is quite susceptible to rust. So if you start noticing kind of orangey yellow pustules on the stems, that's likely rust. Just prune that out. Better to manage that earlier on rather than later. Another thing, as this plant gets older, it gets what's called cross-girdling crotches, which means that it has kind of a very sharp angle with its new growth. So sometimes you'll get, I don't know if you guys can see that, you'll get stems that kind of intersect other stems. So a little bit of selective pruning might be necessary as it gets older. Some varieties of pomegranates actually produce micro thorns, so something to keep in mind. Another thing that I think I have to say is, in nature, this is not an evergreen plant. In nature, it's a deciduous tree. It's a pretty low-lying tree. It doesn't typically get higher than about 20 feet. You can make it into more of a shrub form if you top it every 3 years or so. You'll get a lot of new shoots on the base. So it is quite deciduous in nature. If you take really, really good care of it and it's really healthy and happy, you might be able to have the leaves persist for a long time, and you might actually keep it somewhat evergreen if you're really concerned about the aesthetic nature of it, because it does look quite twiggy and kind of gnarly if it doesn't have leaves on it. I know one of my friends was growing this plant and started going yellow on him, and it was going dormant, and I think he actually threw it away. Oh, I felt so bad. So yeah, if it starts to look kind of like garbage after a while, it could just be going through dormancy. They do not like having their roots frozen. I'm definitely bringing this pot right next to the house. Full sun exposure. You're not going to get good fruit set if it's in shade, is one thing that I've noticed as well. What else should I say about this guy? If you get some blotching, I mean, sucking, rasping insects, all sorts of different kinds of insects, but especially the ones with piercing, sucking mouth parts, like aphids, and actually this has quite a few problems with spider mites too. We'll go over these leaves. At this point, probably prune off that leaf. It's probably not going to do much more for the plant. Expect a little dieback here and there. It's very sensitive to overwatering. It's a lot easier to overwater than it is to underwater these guys. I think I have a little bit of dieback here too. They don't transplant very well either, in my opinion, so kind of if you have a space set out where you want to be growing your pomegranate, it likes to stay there, it likes to stay put. These guys don't mind a little bit extra acidity in the soil. I've been fertilizing this one. Oh, sorry, this isn't even focused. I've been supplementing this guy's soil with just extra coffee water from when I drink my coffee in the morning. Yeah. So my battery's dying, so I'm gonna stop this video, but I hope you learned a little bit more about pomegranates. Really rewarding plant. I cannot wait until I get my first fruit on this. Worthwhile, it's quite aesthetic. It actually looks quite a bit like an olive. Really good in pots, nice structure. What's not to love? So I hope you guys have a good day, stay blessed, and thank you for watching.